The City of Waterloo, in cooperation with its many active and inspiring entities, presents Heart for the City, a chance to hear and see what's going on in our city and to meet people who serve you, teach you, entertain you, help you, all neighbors and like you. Make this a city on the move. And now, here's our host, the Honorable Quentin Hart.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on Heart for the City. I'm Quentin Hart, proud mayor of Waterloo, and I am here once again to remind you of the many wonderful and exciting events coming with this great fall weather. There are parades, concerts, festivals, art exhibits, fairs, farmers markets, museums, sporting events, and that's not all. And all are high quality and guaranteed to captivate participants and spectators of all ages. And in 1988, Stephen Covey published a business and self-help book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Covey presents an approach to attaining goals by aligning oneself to what he calls true north principles of character ethic. These are universal and timeless. And how is this being applied in the Cedar Valley, and what impact is it having? Stay tuned and we will find out how these principles are helping our future workforce and our community to reach their full potential. Don't go away.
Welcome to the University of Northern Iowa. Here we know talk is cheap, but college isn't. That's why we offer tuition you can afford at one of the best colleges in the Midwest. You see, at UNI, our professors teach classes. That's right, professors, not grad assistants. So you can get the customized education that, let's face it, you deserve. Whatever major you choose or organization you join, we've got it all so you can have it all. Discover where you belong at UNI, the right fit.
Leader Valley, a talent development initiative of the Greater Cedar Valley Alliance and Chamber, is implementing Leader in Me in an unprecedented fashion. According to the Alliance CEO, Steve Duss, that was a year ago, and to update on that is this very important program is Melissa Reedy.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How are you?
Great, thanks.
Before we get started talking a little bit about the Leader in Me program, I mean, who is Melissa?
Melissa Reade. I'm an educator and working with the Greater Cedar Valley Alliance and Chamber under the Leader Valley umbrella.
And when we hear Leader Valley, like, what is Leader Valley?
Yeah, Leader Valley is a talent development initiative. It's really the educational arm of the Alliance and Chamber, and our main focus is really centered on Leader in Me in our schools here.
And that was my next question. When we talk about Leader in Me, and why is it Leader in Me? Tell us about that portion of it.
Sure. Leader in Me is really based on the foundational principles of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's a program that we're doing in our schools, K-12. The premise is that everyone has the capacity to be a leader. They can be a leader of themselves and they can be a leader of others.
Right. And when did this start? How far does this date back?
Yeah, it's been going on for quite some time. Here in the Cedar Valley, it's been going on since 2010. We had our first 2 schools and join us. Sir Walter Cunningham School for Excellence was one of those schools.
And when we talk about the 7 habits, I'm not going to put you on the spot to know every one of them.
Yes.
You know, you're teaching young people those habits. So could you just like break down 1 or 2 or 3 so we know what they are?
Yeah, I can give you an overview. So the 7 habits are really principles and practices that effective people employ in their lives to be effective. And so the first 3 habits are all about self-discipline, self-responsibility, self-vision, personal management. It's all about themselves and how they manage themselves and their business. The second 3 set of habits 4 through 6, are all about interpersonal development, so how they work and play well with others. And then habit 7 is sharpen the saw. It's all about personal wellness and renewal and sharpening yourself so that you're better for others.
Why is this so important to education and business as well?
Leader in Me in our community was really born out of the needs that our business community expressed about the future workforce. And so what we're really trying to do is develop our future talent with the skills that they need to be effective. You know, we always say, why do we wait till adulthood to learn how to be effective? Why aren't we instilling the principles of effectiveness now with our young people? So that's exactly what we're doing.
Well, one of the quotes that I like to use from someone I heard was, what is it, the biggest room that we have is the room for improvement. And so it is always constantly striving to do better, do what we do better, and learning earlier on some of these characteristics, so later on in your life you'll be able to carry them because they help you to be highly effective.
They do. They help you to be highly effective personally and professionally, you know, privately and publicly.
Right. And when we talk about the Cedar Valley in particular, what's unique about Leader Valley and the Leader in Me portion of it within our school?
Sure. Well, Leader Valley is really undertaking an initiative that nobody else in the world has taken. We are trying to regionalize the Leader in Me in all of our metro schools, and then eventually out to all of our greater Cedar Valley schools, so those 6 counties around us. And there's no other region that is trying to do what we're trying to do in in the world, actually.
And have you started to see some of the benefits that it's having? Like, where can you see some areas where it's making a difference?
Sure. Well, notably, in those habits of the private victory habits all around their own personal management, we're seeing students become more confident. We're seeing students become more risk-taking, like in a positive way. We're seeing them increase their efforts, not giving up as easily. We see students just really starting to work and play well with others in ways that are valuable to them down the road.
You know, one of the first examples you just given is that self-confidence that they have, because every child, every person has the potential for leadership, and leadership doesn't necessarily mean that you'll hold up a bullhorn telling people this or you'll run a company, but it's those qualities and characteristics that you have within yourself that helps you to be the best that you can possibly be. You know, so that's really like that particular point. But when we take a look at our elementary schools, are there some different things happening, or creative things, or events that we're doing to help?
Yeah, well, certainly, you know, in addition to the 7 habits, in all of our schools, every single one of our Leader in Me schools at every level, we are focused on students identifying their own unique gifts and talents. And so with that, when students start to realize what their gifts and talents are, have authentic opportunities to apply those, whether it's leadership events or out in the community with service projects, they know what it feels like to be a leader. You know, we often think about leadership as a choice, not a position, to your point, right? It's not about rank, title, authority, power. It's about, are you a leader of you so that you can be a leader for others? And so all of our schools are embracing these principles and paradigms in really unique and fun ways.
And you said all of our schools, so you just said a little while ago we started off with 2 schools, but how many schools has it transitioned to?
Sure. In the Cedar Valley, we have 23 schools. In Waterloo alone, we have 17. And so we have 4 with the Cedar Valley Catholic schools in Waterloo, and then we have 13 Waterloo community schools.
And for the community members that are kind of looking at this broadcast, and I know millions of people are looking at this.
I have no doubt, yes.
How can someone be engaged? How can a community person or someone be engaged to help in these efforts?
Well, our schools are always looking for volunteers to engage, whether it's with clubs to help students develop gifts and talents, to come in as public speakers, to attend leadership events, to help us on kind of the back end with Leader Valley so that we can help support our schools through this process.
And how can someone learn more information about Leader Valley?
Yeah, they can certainly contact me at the Alliance and Chamber, which is 319-232-1156, or they can get on the Leader Valley website, find our contact information and the different types of opportunities available to them.
All right. And I just want to say you're doing an outstanding job. You know, this is a program that doesn't just focus on one school and leave the other school out. This is something, and the principles that are involved can have an impact on the lives of every child within our school district. And I want to thank you for your efforts, the Chamber, proud board member I am. So I want to thank you so much for all you're doing to inspire and just bring that growth within our young people in this community. Any final thoughts you want to share about?
Just I think you just hit on this. Something I'm super passionate about and believe strongly in is that this is inclusive of all of our students in all of our schools. And so while all the schools are not yet Leader in Me schools, our goal is that they will be, and that every single student will be impacted by Leader in Me.
All right, so we want to thank you so much, Melissa, for being here with us today. We want to thank the Alliance and Chamber and staff and everyone involved within our school system and all that they do to help prepare our youth for a successful and meaningful future. And there is nothing more important for our city's future than the students who excel and are prepared for citizenship and careers. And we would love to have you back as this program continues to grow in the Cedar Valley and Waterloo. And if you haven't read the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, I recommend that you add it to your reading list. Waterloo was originally known as Prairie Rapids Crossing. The town was established near 2 Meskwaki Indian tribal seasonal camps alongside the Cedar River and first settled in 1845. The name Waterloo supplanted the original name of the whim of the first postmaster. A lot has happened since those early days. How do we define and preserve the many elements of our historic past? Stay tuned and we will find out.
There's a place that lies directly between where you've been and where you're going. It's the place in the middle, the place where your past and future connect. Hawkeye Community College is that place, connecting you to great faculty, engaged students, and four-year destinations like the University of Northern Iowa. Every masterpiece starts with a blank canvas, and every success story begins with an empty page. Start writing your story today. Hawkeye Community College. Connect.
The mission of the Historic Preservation Commission is to recognize, promote, and preserve Waterloo's historic sites and cultural heritage in partnership with its citizens, agencies, and organizations. To tell us more on this, Ed Ottesen, Chairman of the Waterloo Historic Preservation Commission. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. Well, Ed, tell us a little bit, what is historic preservation? I know we talked about it in the beginning, but what is it?
Well, historic preservation is the ability to preserve our past through mostly visible means is through buildings that we preserve and reuse throughout the city.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I forgot to ask your role within the commission.
Right now, I am chairman of the commission.
Okay.
I am one of the volunteers that are members of that commission. I think we have around 7 at the moment.
Okay, and when we take a look at the overall mission and how you work within the city, what particular role does the Preservation Commission play with the city of Waterloo?
We have a lot of things that we do, from education of the public to monitoring the historic districts that we do have and that are locally designated.
Right.
Currently, that is just the Highland District. So any changes in that district are brought to the commission for review.
Right. And so you just indicated about 7 people serve.
I believe that's
7 or so serve on the commission. But you know, what are some other issues that you may work on? You mentioned the Highland area, but what other issues and things are?
Well, we're trying to get more districts, more neighborhoods registered on the National Register of Historic Places. Currently, we're working on Walnut area right now. Hopefully, that will once the study is finalized and completed, and we'll have that on that register.
And how does a building become historic? Or is it just because it's an older building, or how does that happen?
No, it not just because it's an old building, although it needs to be at least 50 years old. When it is reviewed for consideration for the list, it's not only deals with the architectural significance of the building, whether it's different from other buildings of an important style, or if there's some other history about it, whether people that live there that are prominent in the country or in the local city.
Right. So offhand, do you know how many historic buildings we have? Or a guesstimate, I'm
well,
sorry.
Yeah, we're in the hundreds that could be eligible.
Okay.
We do have probably, I don't know the number that we do have listed on the National Register, but there are quite a few.
And some people may ask, why save an old building? You know.
There's a lot of reasons why to save an old building. I mean, it's a lot of these buildings may be currently vacant or not underused, so you can bring them back on the tax rolls for one thing. Reusing a building prevents you from tearing it down and throwing those materials into the landfill. Those are just kind of two items that.
And you know, another interesting piece that, yes, we want communities to progress, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to tear everything down and build things new for a community to progress. I think one of the interesting projects with the Walnut area, there were a few that were, well, anything can be repaired,
right?
But the private-public partnership, the working with JSA, the working with the preservation, the working with Habitat for Humanity, working with Mr. Anderson to kind of bring in some of the amenities that the neighbors wanted. I think that's a really great model for us to use.
And I hope it's one that can be used in the future too in other areas, because that seems to be a good model to get things done for.
And you know, and one other point to add to that with that model is the fact that our neighborhoods, you know, there's so much history. The city of Waterloo is, what, 150 years old? Something like that.
Yeah.
And so our neighborhoods, which that being probably one of the older neighborhoods that's near that railroad area, there's a story. There's significant people that have lived in those. I'm not saying they're not significant today, but, you know, you think about Mr. Roosevelt Taylor, that used to live in there, you know, bless his soul. You have Willa Mae Wright. You have other influential people that have lived in that particular neighborhood. But when we start to erode the stories that we may have, that we may be able to tell to our children, you know, that has an impact on overall pride. Wouldn't it be something that the continuation of your work where we walk past a place and we're like, wow, that's where this was at. That's where this was at. And so, I mean, just a phenomenal purpose with regards to preservation.
And that history goes into the research for the nomination of a district. It's not just the bricks and mortar of a building. They have to look into that history as well.
And then one question I have on here, is there a provision allowing a preservation district to be created or a historic district, or is there a difference?
Yeah, there is a difference. For local designations, we have a historic district and a preservation district. The historic districts generally follow the guidelines of the National Register and the requirements of what can be done and cannot be done. Preservation districts, those requirements are a little bit lenient, a little more lenient. For example, windows in a preservation district may be allowed to have vinyl as opposed to having to replace or refurbish what's there. Also, new construction in a preservation district can be more modern, but still trying to be in character with what the surroundings are.
And what are the advantages or disadvantages to a building becoming designated as historic?
It depends on the building too. So, a commercial building that is designated, nationally designated, can qualify for up to 45% tax credits, both federal and state, for any remodeling or rehabilitation of that building. For other areas, there are other options that are available for them too.
Well, we got about 1 minute left in this section, but I got to ask you this question. What is on the 2017 most endangered properties that are historic or endangered here?
We have several properties, including the Mount Moriah Church, which is just down the street here, a very nice church. Also the former Walnut Baptist Church, a few blocks away. The Rath Administration Building. All three of those are very significant structures in the downtown area. There are a couple of houses also in the Walnut District where we're trying to get designated. So some very significant buildings.
Well, good. Great work. And another question, if someone has questions, is there a number to contact or office number? How would someone that may have some questions learn a little bit more?
You can probably call the City Planning and Zoning Office. John Darnoff is our city employee that's assigned to our commission. He has a lot of background and should be able to help answer your questions.
All right, so give John Dornoff a call, 291-4366, and you can find out more information. But Ed, I want to thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
The entire community wants to thank you and the dedicated people who work to save our cultural and historic heritage. And as we know, what is historic and worth saving varies from person to person, but simply put, historic means old and worth the trouble. It applies to a building that's part of a community's tangible past, and to a degree that may surprise cynics, old buildings can offer opportunities for a community's future. The renovation of the Wonder Bread Bakery is a good example of that. So once again, thank you, Ed, and please consider coming back. I know a lot will happen in the coming year, and we'll want to hear about it. The Northeast Iowa Food Bank is driven by the core belief that hunger is unacceptable, that everyone deserves access to enough food that sustains life and nourishes health, and in that they serve the greater community in need without judgment. Of their myriad of programs, one is very visible at this time of the year, and it's the community garden. So stay with us, and we will have more information on this vital program.
The Cedar Valley Sportsplex is your destination for fitness and recreation. You'll have access to over 50 classes per week in our state-of-the-art facility at no additional cost. Work out with like-minded individuals through our circuit training, aqua jam, and more. Customize your workouts on over 60 pieces of pre-core equipment. Our qualified personal trainers can help you achieve your fitness goals. Worried about the kids? Childcare offered 7 days a week.
The community garden utilizes organic growing practices to produce healthy fruits and vegetables, which are distributed to clients on site through the Cedar Valley Food Pantry. But this program offers far more. To tell us about the aspect of the food bank is Bobbi Jacobs, who among other capacities is the community garden manager. What a big job. So welcome, Bobbi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, tell us a little bit about your background and how you became involved in gardening.
Well, yeah, I was actually moved here about 8 years ago for school at UNI, graduate, yay.
You were moved here?
Yes, I was moved here by my parents.
Okay.
I graduated, and then after that, about a year after I graduated, I was offered an AmeriCorps service position through UNI.
Okay.
And that was a food security position, and that's how I started my work with the food bank. And then flash forward 2 years, they hired me after my service term, and I was able to start work with their community garden and also work with their grants.
So when and how did the idea of establishing a community garden begin?
So for those of you who don't know, the food bank was moved to its new location on Lafayette Street in 2013.
Yes.
It was a great move. The facility is beautiful. And when we did that, some partners from UNI and some other community groups got together to look at this about quarter-acre size plot of land that was by the staff parking lot. And they thought, wow, what a great place for a community garden. And so a bunch of people got together, UNI, Center for Local Foods, AmeriCorps service people, and a few other community groups started to establish the garden. And in the first year, it harvested a little under 1,000 pounds. And the next 2 years, it's been about 4,000.
Oh, wow, really? Wow. So is it one garden or are there multiple gardens? But where is or are they located?
So the food bank only runs the quarter-acre plot that's right adjacent to the facility, but we are in communication with a bunch of other community gardens who donate regularly.
Was there special permission that was required to start a garden there?
Yeah, the city was really great in helping us with the zoning process for it. So all of our facilities are in regulation, and the city has also been really great with leasing land to other groups who want to start gardens.
Yeah. So what is traditionally grown there? And I know you mentioned something about what the harvest is annually, but can you talk and tell us that again?
Yeah, sure. So we harvest about 4,000 pounds annually now. And what we try to grow are under three sort of basic categories. One is staples, so your potatoes, tomatoes, things that everybody wants and needs. And then we also try to grow culturally specific foods. So we have a Burmese refugee population, and from my work in AmeriCorps, I know what kinds of foods they generally like to cook with, so we've added some of their staples like Thai chilies and cherry bombs. And then we also try to grow specialty crops that are hard to find in grocery stores or really expensive in grocery stores. So collard greens, tomatillos, things like that.
Wow. So who works in the gardens? Are there volunteers or paid staff? And how many people can be there at one time or so?
Well, I'll take as many people as will want to work.
Okay.
But I'm the only paid staff person. It's about 30% of my job right now. And then we have great volunteer support from ISU Master Gardeners and a few other civically minded individuals. And then about once or twice a week we have organizations or church groups that come in and help out as well. It's been really cool this year to see people who are interested in specifically working in the garden. As the word is sort of getting out, it's a really exciting prospect because age doesn't matter, skill level doesn't matter, anybody can work in the garden.
Right. And so if someone wants to volunteer, all they'd have to do to contact you, which we'll talk a little bit about how to contact you at the end, but it's pretty much that simple.
Yeah.
Do you need to have a green thumb and pinky finger? Or?
No.
Okay.
When I started in AmeriCorps, I didn't know how to grow basically anything. But it's working with community members to learn, and then I'm always there to help facilitate, and we all learn together, and it's really exciting.
Right. So you said about
4,000 pounds.
4,000 pounds right now. That's not tons?
No, not tons. It's
Okay, don't worry. I'm way off on that.
It's okay.
Anyway. But so what do you do with the actual harvest though? Like where does it go?
Yeah, so we have a great program in that we can just move the produce the 20 feet into the pantry, which is really exciting, which means the produce that we're moving in there could not be any fresher for our clients, and they really appreciate that. And so most of the produce goes right into the pantry. During the time when school is out, however, we teach a garden class 3 days a week to local youth, and what we do with them is we go out to the garden, they harvest, and then we also have an on-site kitchen, so then we go into the kitchen and prepare a healthy meal together, and they're allowed, then they eat it, and we play an activity.
Okay. So one of the things about community gardens, from the one that you run as well, and this is a very diverse, folks throughout our community are doing this or partaking, but what type of ethnically diverse groups have participated?
I personally have the most experience with our Burmese refugee population, and I also was successful in my AmeriCorps service in setting up some of the Congolese individuals in our community in community gardens in Cedar Falls. So it's been really fun to see different walks of life crossing over in this program.
Yeah, but I know the Jesse Cosby Center has a program as well where they take youth and teach them some of the skills that you're teaching as well. So really diverse in who's actually involved in community garden for the different programs. There's about harvest market time. What does that mean when I hear that, or when people hear that? What does that actually mean?
So if you're talking about community gardens, a lot of them are either based at churches, and they use that produce for their community meal or for donation, and just as like a service that they can do together as a congregation. And so that produce is being harvested on the same day it's used for the most part. Same thing with our community garden. With the local farmers, they're harvesting about 3 to 4 times a week, depending on their market schedule.
And then to even add to that, there's a greenhouse.
Yeah.
Is there a greenhouse? Tell us about a greenhouse, why that's important, and who supported that? Did you have volunteers or?
Yeah, it was a great community project. We secured funding late last year for it through seed money and ISU Master Gardener mini grant. And then to help put it up, which was quite the endeavor, we had a lot of help from John Deere. They came out about 5 times to help us put it together, and then it was finished by Isle of Capri Casino. All
right, and we have just a few moments left, but how do you view the future of community gardens moving forward?
I think it's a great opportunity for people in the area to come together with their neighbors. And I also think it's a really great way to sort of add a little bit of beauty or interest to vacant plots of land as well, because the plot of land that we used was a gravel parking lot, and now it grows 4,000 pounds of food every year. So it's a really great way to sort of turn nothing into something in a way that people can come together.
And if someone wants to contact you or need more information, what do they do?
They can email me at bjacobs@feedingamerica.org, or they can call the food bank at 319-235-0507.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. Bobbi, thank you for giving us some insight to this vital program, and we thank you once again for being here. But don't go away. We will be right back after this message.
Looking for something to do? Well, during this great weather, there is so much going on indoors and outdoors in Waterloo. For entertainment, shopping, eating, and more, go to travelwaterloo.com for complete listings of so many exciting activities, places, and venues. You can also find much of this information on the City of Waterloo website and at cityofwaterlooiowa.com under the Visitors tab. Well, that's our show, and we welcome your suggestions and feedback. And remember to tell others that these episodes are available for viewing from the City of Waterloo website and at cityofwaterlooiowa.com. And you will see the show's YouTube link prominently displayed on the home page. Please join us next time, and thanks for watching Heart for the City. Until then, I think you will agree it's a great day to be in Waterloo.